Shabbat upon you, Yerushalayim. Stand and face Jerusalem for the opening prayer. Open and read everything. Lesson of the Sabbath. Barakta Yahweh.
Barakta Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Asherah.
Asherah.
Tananawa.
The Tananawa.
Ashabak.
Ashabat.
Bashalom.
Bashalom.
The water.
The water.
Amen.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Ta'alim Ma'a Asherayim Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya, Orayam, Ayanimya, O, Ahariam, Mayan, Yabu'a, Isaiah, Yabu'a, Mayahawa, Jaisha, Shamayim, Barataza, La'a, Yanathan, Lamawat, Wagalia, Yala'a, Yanawam, Shashomarka, Ana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yayashan, Shashomar, Yasharala, Yahweh, Shemariah, Yahweh, Tazalia, Ayel, Yad, Yanyamyad, Yahumam, Ashamash, La'a, Alkaya, Bayrak, La'a, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamariah, Makal, Rai, Yashamar, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashamar, Haulakia, Wabaya, Maitha, Wa'ai, Iwulam, Basham, Yahushai, the water, Amen.
Amen. Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen.
Your square is live.
Square.
The line. Click on the line in the middle. At the bottom. No, the further down. And it says closing prayers. Is one person having issues, and then just change the aspect to this one. And then the bottom it says closing prayers.
It's just like too many of these things.
Go to the top.
I think we should
Right next to each other.
delete some of these things. It's confusing.
Right here, right above. Underneath. Yeah, show that one. Good.
Yeah.
So you're right. I got
Yeah.
one for each new moon because each sheet will work. But the rest of the
All right. Asherah Batazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'a,
La'a,
Yahaya, Laka,
Laka,
Alahaim,
Alahaim,
Akayim,
Akari,
Aponya,
Aponya,
La'a,
La'a,
Taisha,
Taisha,
Laka,
Laka,
Poso,
Poso,
Wala'a,
Wala'a,
Taibudam,
Laibadam,
La'a,
La'a,
Talakwaka,
Talakwaka,
Shamwa,
Shamwa,
Yahawa,
Yahawa,
Lahaika,
Lahaika,
Lashawa,
Lashawa,
Zukar,
Zakar,
Ab,
Ab,
Hayuam,
Ayawam,
Ashabab,
Ashabat,
Lakadashwa,
Lakudash,
Kabad,
Kabat,
Abiyaka,
Amaka,
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 La'a,
La'a,
Tuatazak,
Razizak,
La'a,
La'a,
Tana'af,
Tana'at,
La'a,
La'a,
Taganab,
Taganat,
La'a,
La'a,
Taina,
Tainat,
Shukur,
Shakor,
La'a,
La'a,
Takamat,
Takamad,
Ko,
Kal,
Ashura,
Asherah,
La'aika,
Laraika,
Aman.
Aman. Exodus 22. I am the Lord thy God, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visit the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless by taking his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7 days is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and holiday. Honor thy father and thy mother, that the days may belong upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Inshallah. Be seated. Barakta Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natananawa Par Yagapan Tuara Aman, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yash'al. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Repeat the Hebrew only. Barakata Yahweh, Agado, Rakaram, Abiyo, Manawa'a, Ali1, Malak, Shaw,
Shah,
Shemayim,
Shemayim,
Rataza,
Ratiza,
Rako,
Rakal,
Abayim,
Abarim,
Kayayim,
Kayayim,
Wagum,
Wagam,
Hamashiach,
Hamashiach,
Mayahawa,
Mayahawa,
Alawanawa,
Alawana,
Ahabnawa,
Ahabnawa,
Apala,
Apala,
Yahaitaza,
Yawakiza,
Yahushai,
Yahushua,
Zakonawa,
Zakarnawa,
Ya Zakonawa,
Zakarnawa,
Yahawa,
Yahawa,
Ratazawan,
Ratazawan,
Ainka,
Ainka,
Yasha'ala,
Yashara,
Aizonawa,
Zarnawa,
Bana,
Bana,
Wasap,
Wasa,
Yasha'ala,
Yashara,
O,
O,
Nanawa,
Nanawa,
Yamyan,
Yamyan,
Aita,
Aita,
Kaiwamyam,
Kayawamyam,
Makudam,
Mapadam,
Babukushai,
Abukusha,
Shalak,
Shalak,
Maika Allah,
Maika'ala,
Watazwadak,
Watazwadak,
Alahayam,
Alahayam,
La,
La,
Maganawa,
Maganawa,
Wapandawa,
Wapanawa,
Ashimo Alnawa,
Ashmo Alnawa,
Bakor,
Baikor,
Shalak,
Shalak,
Alroka,
Baroka,
Shal,
Shal,
Yahushai,
Yahushua,
Lanawa,
Lanawa,
Laramannawa,
Alamanawa,
Rabiam,
Rabian,
Kakama,
Kakama,
Tabawana,
Tabawana,
Wadaai,
Wadaai,
Shal,
Shal,
the Barka,
Barka,
Hashem,
Bashem,
Yahushai,
Yahushua,
the Wada,
Wada,
the Myad,
Tamyat,
Waiwalam,
Waibalam,
Amen.
Aman,
English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor Yahushua. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahushua to us, to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahushua, thank you always and forever. So be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the law. Barakata Yahweh,
Barakata Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Bashem Yahushua,
Ashura,
Ashura,
Tatananawa,
Tananawa,
Atharat.
Atawah,
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the ram song to call the people. Barakata Yahweh,
Barakata Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Bashem Yahushua,
The light. The light. Did you say the light? Second. The light. Did you say the light?
For which one? For a second. The second ram song.
That's the third.
Blessed are you, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the light to see.
That's number 2. Flip back page.
First one, blessed are you in the name of Yahushua that gives us that gives to us the law. The second one, the light.
Yeah. So light.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the light to see. Barakata Yahweh,
Barakata Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Bashem Yahushua,
Ashura,
Ashura,
Nathanawa,
Tananawa,
La'arat. Awar,
Awar,
La'arat.
Larawat,
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the ram song to call the people. Barakata Yahweh,
Barakata Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Bashem Yahushua,
Ashura,
Ashura,
Nathanawa,
Tananawa,
Quran,
Paran,
Ayo,
Tayo,
Lakara,
Lakura,
Ha'ain.
Ta'ain.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakata Yahweh,
Barakata Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushua,
Bashem Yahushua,
Ashura,
Ashura,
Nathanawa,
Tananawa,
Ashman,
Ashaman,
Zayaf,
Zayah,
Lamashak,
Lamashak,
Yasha'al.
Yasha'al.
Yeshua, please be seated. Ten Commandments, right?
Change one assist 2720.
Shalom Yasharala. Welcome to Hayasharala Kanas, which stands for the Congregation of Israel, where we teach the so-called Negroes and Hispanics, those scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. They are the real biblical Jews that the Bible speaks of. And today, we're going to be going into the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 29 and 30. And those watching on the live stream, welcome to Hayasharala Kanas. And I salute you all. And my name is Kahan Pukwai. And we will be bringing out the sense into chapter 29 and chapter 30. All right, we're going to unpack the wisdom containing in these two chapters as best as we can, given the time. So we apologize for the late starting. Usually when we have Ecclesiasticus, we tend to want to start early, but due to no technical setback, we started late. But swiftly, we're going to get to these chapters and break down verse by verse so that we can get a clear understanding, which is the purpose of why we come to class, why we observe the Sabbath service, so that we can get clarity on the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, so that we can continue to keep up with it, so that we can be on good standing with the Most High. This is the purpose of service, for the Most High, not only to give the Most High his praise, but also for the congregation to understand what they are reading so that they can apply them when they go out there in the world, so they can prophets will prophesy about us keeping the Lord's statutes and commandments. We are in the land of captivity, in the land of north. As you read in Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter, all the curses and everything that you see in this book, they pretty much relate to one people, and these people are the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. If your forefathers were brought here on cargo slave ships, you are a descendant of these people. And if you are those they call the indigenous people who travel to the land of north, where no men lived before, right, before the so-called white man came in and slaughtered the majority these indigenous people, right, and took over the land of north. These are the children of Israel that are being referred to in the scriptures. And right now, we are living in the last days. If you're following what's going on, the Most High is bringing the judgment that he said would happen in the book of Ezekiel, as well as throughout the prophets, right, that he gave the word to, so that we know when we are in these last days, starting with Christ and all the way to now. We are witnessing what's happening on the world stage and see that the Bible is true. again, this is just a brief synopsis of who we are, why we're in a low state, and who are the real Jews according to the Bible. Once again, I salute all those watching on the live stream without anyone missing anyone, right? So that's why I said everyone watching on the live stream, happy Sabbath. Welcome to Ayasharala Kanas, the Sabbath service. And those listening on the conference line, again, welcome. Without further ado, grab your pen, grab your Bible, grab your Apocrypha, which is the book that we're going to be reading in today and breaking down or bring the sense into chapter 29 of the book Ecclesiasticus. What is this chapter about? The chapter that we're about to read. What should we retain from the chapters that we're about to read today? What should be our main focus in this chapter? What is it talking about? What is those two chapters talking about? Right, so these chapters talks about relationship, more specifically money, lending, charity, family, and the proper attitude that we should have towards wealth and life itself. So note that this is what these two chapters mainly focus on. And that's why we're going to unpack verse by verse. And if necessary, we will link some scriptures pertaining to some of the verses that may be difficult to understand in layman's terms. Okay? Again, this chapters is about social relationships, particularly money, lending, charity, family, and proper attitude towards wealth and life itself. So we will classify these as ethical standard or moral standard when it comes to these things, the moral law. Okay, so now let's get started with the first verse. So in chapter 29, also to be more concise, it is divided into three distinct sections. I'm speaking about chapter 29. Three distinct sections. Lending and charity and wisdom of having your own home. So that's 29. Lending and charity and the wisdom of having a place to abide. So let's get started on lending. And it says in verse 1, he that is merciful will lend unto his neighbor, and he that strengtheneth his hand keepeth the commandments. Verse 2, lend to thy neighbor in time of his need, and pay thou thy neighbor again in due season. So if you were to read this by itself without breaking it down, or without the details given the understanding of these two verses, you might just read it and go over it. But let's unpack these two verses in the simplest term as possible. So it says, he that is merciful will lend into will lend unto his neighbor. So it shows you, write that in there, lending is an act of mercy. Right there on the beginning says, he that is merciful. So lending is an act of mercy. It's an act of mercy. So not merely a business transaction. Right? Not merely a business transaction. When it comes to us and dealing with our neighbor, an Israelite brother or sister, it is an act of mercy, not business as usual, in reference to how the world see lending. Okay, so it's an act of mercy, right? It is not business as usual in a business transaction. So now, when you transition, go into before we transition, it says, lend unto his neighbor, and he that strengtheneth his hand keepeth the commandments. Right? So now, what does that mean? He that strengtheneth his hand keepeth the commandment. It pretty much means those who have understanding of the law, understand the ethics behind lending, because it is an act of mercy. As an act of mercy, only those who understand keeping the laws of the Most High will apply it, and they will see it as a law, as a commandment. And as that, when you do that, you reinforce your understanding when it comes to lending to your neighbor as an Israelite. So now, it's not just the lender. It's going to touch on the borrower who's on the receiving end of that loan. All right, so now it says in verse 2, lend to thy neighbor in time of his need, and pay thou thy neighbor again in due season. So now it's focusing on the person on the receiving end, which is who is the borrower. It says, keep thy word and deal faithfully with him, and thou shalt always find the thing that is necessary for thee. So now speaking about the lender that is ready to exploit the good kindness of the lender. Okay. All right. So let's get a scripture to tie in what we're talking about. For example, you can write down Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 7 and 8. Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 7 to 8. Let me read that real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 15, verse 7 to 8. It says, I'm sorry, let me get this correctly. Deuteronomy 15, 7 to 8. And it reads, if there be among you a poor man of one of thy brethren within any of thy gates. Now, again, the law was written to the children of Israel. So now we're getting the commandments or the statute behind lending, right? And again, is lending not a sense of business as usual, but an act of mercy. It says, if there be among you a poor man of one of thy brethren within any of thy gates in thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thine heart, nor shut thine hand from thy poor brother. Continuing in verse 8, it says, but thou shalt open thine hand wide unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient for his need and that which he wanteth. Okay, so that's pretty much solidified. A person that is merciful, who understand the law of the Most High, will keep this commandment, because it is a commandment. Okay, and lending, and again, it is an act of mercy. Always remember that it is not business as usual, but it is an act of mercy, supplying your brother or sister who are in need in your surrounding. So now it advised the borrower to keep his promise. It is a promissory note, right? When you lend, the person on the receiving end promise to repay. It said, keep thy word and deal faithfully with him, and thou shalt always find the things that is necessary for thee. So therefore, when you keep your word, you can always go back in time of need, because you will find somebody to help you, or your brother or sister to help you, because you keep your promise to repay. Okay. And then in verse 4, it says, many, when it says many, when a thing was lent them, reckon it to be found, and put them to trouble that help them. So that's exploiting the lender's kindness, right? Instead of giving back happily, as the lender happily keeping the law, helping the borrower in turns giving the lender a hard time when it comes to repay the debt. Okay. Now, also, stay on that. Go to Psalm 37 in verse 26. Psalm 37 in verse 26. Keep in mind, again, this is breaking down in details what we are reading in this wisdom that we are unpacking in Ecclesiasticus in terms of lending, right? That's pretty much what that section that we on right now. So let's go to Psalm 37. Psalm 37, and I'm going to read verse 26. And it reads, he is ever merciful and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. Is the benefit or the recompense of someone who obey or observe the law of lending. The recompense or the blessing that he will get, he will be blessed, right? If you observe this law. He is ever merciful and lendeth, and his seed is blessed, meaning that their offspring will be blessed because they observe this law. So one might say, so what does that have to do with my seed being blessed? Observing that law as it is written, you'll find out that your seed will be blessed. Okay, so that's why I said it is a merciful act, but not business as usual when it comes to lending as an Israelite around or with your people that are around you. Kahan, y'all couldn't ask your hand up.
Oh, Will supply.
And what verse you going in?
Ecclesiasticus 21:8. He said that he that buildeth his house with other men's money is like one that gathereth himself stones for the tomb of his burial. So to go around, borrowing money from people just to build, like my house, right? I could do that.
Now, how do we link that with what we bringing about? That we talking about here in this chapter?
And we're talking about money here and lending money.
Right.
Somebody borrow money from you and keep borrowing money from you to build his house.
Okay.
And maybe hopefully you could pay you back slowly. So you should be, generous, right?
Right.
So he can build himself up, right?
Right.
But hopefully he pay you back in small, increments.
Right. That's what you would hope.
Yeah.
All right. So now to bring it full circle into what you just brought out, now we're talking about a lender and a borrower, right? It is good for the lender if he follow wisdom and be merciful in keeping the commandments and lending. But keep in mind, the person on the receiving end also has a law of repaying. The law of repaying is you should give back and keep your promise. Keep your promise and honor the promissory note that you took on, right, in the transaction. Okay, so again, it is common that you lend, but when it comes time to pay, you're getting a hard time getting your resources back that you lend to the person on the receiving end. So again, we were on verse 4 in Ecclesiasticus chapter 29, verse 4. It says many, when a thing was lent them, reckon it to be found, and put them to trouble that helped them. So now it becomes a problem for the lender when time comes for him to get paid back the money or whatever resources that were lended. Okay, so again, it is a warning about borrowers who repay with empty words or slanderous words when it comes time to repay. So it is a guard also for borrowers to use wisdom when it comes to lending. So it's not just you open your arm and be merciful and lend, but you have to use wisdom of the scriptures, right? Even though you cannot control the receiving party, but you can control yourself and also analyze to see if that person is worthy of your resource, right? But nonetheless, it is an act of mercy. Always be merciful when it comes to lending, because the borrower oftentimes abuses the lender's kindness, right? Turning the favor into shame. So while you were doing a favor, at the end, it turns into shame, into a shouting match, right? To get your resource back. So now continue on. In verse 5. Verse 5, it says, till he have received, he will kiss a man's hands. Now, the person that is borrowing will beg or even, pretend to do something that he would not have done. He will kiss somebody's hand, right? Or meaning touch him, try to sweet talk you into getting that money. It says, and for his neighbor's money, he will speak submissively, right? You will be yes, everything you say, yes. Do you understand? You know, no problem, man. I got you, man. Come on, man. You know, I got you. You know, I got you. Don't worry, man. Come on. You know, I'm good for it. You know, I'm good for it, man. Come on, man. You know, it says submissively, but when he should repay, he will prolong the time. So he will buy time. Come on, man. Next week, man. I told you next week I'll give it to you, man. Then he prolonged it to another week. And then he prolonged it to another week. It says, and return word grief and complain of the time. Said, come on, man. You know, come on, you got to give me some time, man. You got to give me some time to repay. I told you I'm going to. Then he started getting loud. I told you I'm going to pay you back. Right? So, word of grief. It says, if he prevail, it shall hardly receive half, and he will count as if it had found it. If not, he have deprived him of his money, and he have gotten him an enemy without cause. He payeth him with cursing and railing, and for honor he will pay him disgrace. Right? Again, the borrower that is being, the borrower is attempting to pay the lender, but with grievous word, right? That's how normally, out of majority, it turns out. Again, a favor was turned or is turned into shame. And sometimes you say, man, I can't believe this is happening. But right here in the scriptures, it instructs us the attitude we should have and what we should expect, right, for that act of mercy that we are doing. Not to shut your hand, understanding there's a possibility it may come to that. And if you see that it's coming to that, you got to pray to the Most High so that it doesn't come to that, because it can create an enemy of your brother or sister, right, just for doing a kind act. So continue on in verse 6.
Deuteronomy 24, verse 10.
Deuteronomy 24 and verse 10.
Yes. It says, when thou dost lend thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge. Thou shalt stand abroad, and the man to whom thou dost lend shall bring out the pledge abroad unto thee. So you can't go into his house and try to search it and trying to get your money back or get something.
Right, because again, it is an act of mercy. It is not business as usual, right? If you understand the very first paragraph, the act of mercy, right? You expect the best to happen, but when you read down, it shows you that this is where it can come down to. So do not trespass and try to collect that money. Try to apply force, because it may turns out to be something that you would not expect, because it might be a fight, right? Because the person already don't want to pay, then it might come into somebody losing life or losing a limb, because we might get into altercation, right? And this is guardrail that the Most High is putting into the business of lending, right? Is putting this law also, statutes, right, accompany the business of lending. So know what you're getting yourself involved in before you get involved in it, because you're not gonna, try to trespass just to collect your money, or try to trespass or go to somebody's property to search so you can get something back, because the Most High doesn't want us to get into friction, right, when it comes to that, right? That's why it's a merciful act when it comes to lending, right? All that is wisdom that we should learn when it comes to lending, right? Because vengeance is mine, said the Lord, in regards to how we deal with each other. If a brother trespass you, right, live it up to the Most High. But contrary to dealing with the enemy, of course, you have to be at peace with all men, but even more with your brother and sisters. Let it be the Most High's charge, right, to repay, right, an act of mercy once again.
Oh, that's terrible.
All right, so now let's go to verse 6 again. It says, if he prevail, all right, verse 7. Many therefore have refused to lend for other men's dealing, fearing to be defrauded. So now, again, if you don't understand or you don't have the insight of what you getting yourself into, you might fall into that category where you say, you know what, I'm not going to observe that law because I have been burnt before and I don't want to be burned again. Right? Again, it's an act of mercy. As much as the Most High bless you, if you have analyzed the situation, don't let yourself be in that category. At the same time, use wisdom. Use wisdom. Right? Use wisdom. It says, many therefore, on verse 8, yet if thou patient with a man in poor estate, and delay not to show him mercy. There you go, that word mercy again, just to emphasize it is an act of mercy. Lending is an act of mercy. Okay? Is an act of mercy. So continue on. Right? So again, following verse 7, patience. Patience. And that goes with the verse in Deuteronomy 24:10 that you just pull. It's about patience. Don't go be so in a rush to get paid that you want to trespass somebody's property. Be patient. Be patient and wait on the Most High. Who knows that the Most High may imply wisdom into that person, and he wakes up and say, you know what, man, let me pay that back, man. Because I remember when I was in that situation, yeah, it was tough, and the brother or sister came to, you know what, as hard as it may be, let me try to do the right thing. Right? But you got to give the person time, right, to figure it out. If not, let the Most High deal with it. Right? Let the Most High deal with it. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord, in regards to your own people. Okay? Right. So now continue on. We at verse 9. It says, help the poor for the commandment's sake. See, this is a law. You can't say I'm not going to keep this law because I was defrauded, but treat it on a case-by-case basis. Okay, don't let your heart be hardened because of one person doing. Don't say I'm not going to keep this commandment because of somebody's bad behavior. Okay? But be wise and watchful. Help the poor for the commandment's sake, and turn him not away because of his poverty. Turn him not away because of his poverty. Okay, in verse 11, verse 10, loose thy money for thy brother and thy friend, and let it not rust under a stone to be lost. Okay. So when you have extra cash and you see a brother that is truly in need, help your friend. And keep in mind, it says brother and thy friend. A brother is someone that is an Israelite, and your friend is someone that is an Israelite. And let it not rust under a stone to be lost. Right? Verse 10, or verse 10, earlier, we have been warned about a borrower that is not in the spirit, right? Now it's transitioning into be a surety to your brother and sister in terms of lending them. Okay. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 1 to 5. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's keep that as we read on. We'll pull that because it'll make more sense as we read down. So let's continue to read. Verse 11. Lay up thy treasure according to the commandments of the Most High, and it shall bring thee more profit than gold. Okay, still we're speaking about resources, money. Lay up thy treasure according to the commandments of the Most High, and it shall bring thee more profit than gold. When we apply this law of lending properly according to the commandments, you will learn so much. Not just get your money back, you will see that the Most High's laws are perfect. And as we read earlier, your seed will be blessed. Okay. Verse 13. It shall fight for thee against thine enemies better than a mighty shield and strong spear. Okay. So this pretty much gives you the distinction between hoarding money and ready to distribute. Okay. Ready to distribute. Because again, whatever resources that you have is not yours per se. The Most High put it into your hand because you are in a position to manage what comes to your hand, because everything is the Lord's in the fullness thereof. So whatever we accumulate in terms of resources, property, land, it's all the Most High. Livestock, it's all the Most High's. But we are being put in a position to manage properly what comes to our hand. And the Most High is watching to see how we deal. So do not entangle ourselves or get in the mindset of owning things for ownership's sake, but rather to be ready to distribute, right, according to the measure that the Most High has blessed us with. Okay. Okay. So again, as we read on, it will make more sense. It says, an honest man is surety for his neighbor, but he that is impudent will forsake him. Remember, when we started, we said it's about money, lending, charity, family, and proper attitude towards treasure or towards wealth. Now we jump into an honest man is surety for his neighbor. What is this talking about? This is talking about when you're co-signing a loan for somebody, for example. Co-signing, put your signature on the dotted line for a mortgage for somebody, or co-signing. That's why it says, an honest man is surety for his neighbor, but he that is impudent will forsake him. Right? So when you are a surety, right, you are a co-signer. You co-signing into something for your neighbor or for your friend, for family, for a brother or a sister. Okay? All right. So surety. Okay. It says, forget not the friendship of thy surety, for he hath given his life for thee. Okay. You see how he worded it? He has given his life for thee, meaning he co-signed for you. For example, Yahushua was a surety for the children of Israel. Right? He co-signed, even though he did not do any sin, but he co-signed, right, to die for us. So he that is impudent will forsake him. Forget not the friendship of thy surety, for he have given his life for thee. Think about somebody has nothing to do with you enjoying your car. He signed on the dotted line. You're gonna be the one enjoying the car, but he signed on the dotted line as a co-signer for you to be able to enjoy or make use of that property that you're about to, possess. Okay, that's surety. Co-signing. See, this is business, not business as usual in the Bible, according to how the Most High wants us to live. People think the Bible is about religious, it's about religion, it's about it doesn't have to do anything to do with everyday life. This is everyday life we're living right here in the midst of Israelite. That's why the Most High said, do not deal with the other nation, because he gave us laws to deal among ourselves. This is laws to deal among ourselves with your people. Okay. Verse 16. Okay. So surety right here, you can see it is a loss, really, for the person thinking, the code that was co-signing, but yet he's doing it because he understands the law. He has to be there for his friend, for his brother, sister, and family within Israel. Again, I take the example of Yahushua as the co-signer, right? For us to be able to enjoy being in the kingdom. Because without him, we would not be able to enter into the kingdom. But because he's the surety, we are able through him to partake into the kingdom. But yet, it was a loss for him, but a good thing for us. But his understanding of keeping the commandments, following the Most High's instruction, that's why we owe him for this surety. Okay, that's on the highest level. Verse 16, a sinner will overthrow the good estate of his surety. Is right here. A sinner will overthrow the good estate. A sinner is someone who don't keep the laws of the Most High, who go against the laws of the Most High. He will not regard the surety. That's why we crucify Christ once again when we sin. Because he died for our sin, and if we continue to sin, we throw away the surety that Christ had taken for us. So the good estate of his surety. And he that is of an unthankful mind will leave him in danger, right? That delivered him. Okay? Who delivered us from sin? The Most High by the head of Christ. Okay? Verse 18. Surety have undone many of good estate, and shaken them as a wave of the sea. Mighty men have it driven from their houses, so that they wander among strange nations. So now that's when Proverbs 6 and 1 to 5 comes into play. Yahukanan, if you don't mind, Bible Shah, read that scripture for us. And we got to surety. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 1 to 5.
Proverbs 6. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth, thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself when thou art come into the hand of the friend of thy friend. Go humble thyself and make sure thy friend. Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler.
Right? So you become like a colado. You take a colado for your friend. You become the collateral damage when you make yourself surety to your friend. So you put yourself in danger, co-signing into a situation. Right? So it is very, very you have to be very, how can I put this? You have to understand the law to know what you're getting yourself into when you decide to co-sign. That's why even as soon as somebody asks you to co-sign,
things start running into your head. Man, cosign. I don't know if I'm ready for that, because you know anything that happened, you next in line, they're gonna come get you because you are the surety. Okay, because you ensure if the person can't pay, that you're gonna be on the hook, just as you know they off the hook. You're gonna be also involved in something that you did not want to get yourself involved.
Robert, we kind of talked about this on the 12th of June, right? For an insurance company, right? They made a business out of being surety, right? For a bunch of people at once.
Mm-hmm.
Even they will hold back, right? Especially if you're in a place that's prone to destruction due to, hurricanes, earthquakes, or fires, right? They'll have certain things in their clauses. They'll say, "Oh, the chances of you running into trouble are very likely." Because of that, we can't provide you insurance. So,
Right, and in some senses, in the light of what's happening today, some may declare what they call force majeure. Force majeure. Force majeure is when they said, "Listen, what just transpired, it happened not because of natural causes. I mean, not because of something that just happened. It's an act of God. Right? It's an act of God. So therefore, we're not responsible. We're not paying.
oh,
We're not paying. Right? An act of God. That means they're not paying the policy. They're not honoring the policy. And usually, it's there in the clause that if it's something that is an act of God, they're not paying. Now, this comes to surety. Surety is you agree if the person cannot be paid, you're gonna be taken into as a collateral. It's like you become the collateral. You also gonna be in a losing end when you co-sign. So that's why it goes into the saying in Proverbs 6, verse 1-5. Also,
that French word, it means like illuminate superior force, right?
right.
But in the context, it just was referring to, like you said, something that's like too much to handle because of that. We're off the hook.
Right. So let me read Proverbs 11 and 15. Proverbs 11 and 15 reads, "He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, and he that hateth suretyship is sure." So if you decide, listen, I'm not going to co-sign anything, listen, man, because you don't want to be off the hook if somebody don't honor their pledge or their contract. Right? Don't get yourself involved into something that you have no idea of the person that you are co-signing. Right? And then in verse 17, it says, the merciful, what we were talking about lending, right? The merciful lender, the merciful man doeth good to his own soul. You're lending because the Most High said, help the poor out. Right? But he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. So if somebody come in and tell you to co-sign, don't go jump and try to co-sign. You're going to bring trouble to yourself if you don't understand what you're getting yourself into. Because you agree to be off the hook if the person don't honor his or her pledge, honor the contract. So don't trouble yourself. Try to get involved into business you have no idea, what the person is about to do. Okay. Lending your treasure, that's one thing. But be surety, think twice. Be a co-signer on any contract, think twice. All right, we'll continue on. Okay. Let me read verse 18 again. It says, shootership have undone many of good estate and shaken them as a wave of the sea. So again, shootership. You put yourself up, and then you had good estate, you are established, but you co-sign on somebody's stuff. Next thing you know, they come seize your assets. It says, mighty men have been driven from their houses. So that means they took your asset. Now you're homeless because you put your house up as collateral for somebody. Right? So that they wander among strange nations. Now they took you away. Right. A wicked man transgresseth the commandments of the Lord shall fall into shootership. Right? If you think you're a big guy, you try to front, don't worry, man, I got you. Or you want a new car? Or the new you want the new Tesla that's driving around? No problem, man. Call me. I'll co-sign for you. Right? Because we not paying, a wicked man is not paying attention and not taking in consideration what he's just about to do, co-signing on somebody's stuff, right? Not knowing that he will be off the hook if things don't turn out the way, it is stated in the contract. It said, he that undertaketh and followeth other men's business for gain shall fall into suits. Exactly. Right? Lawsuits. Write that in it. Okay. So if you try to meddle into other people's business and not knowing what they are involved in, you putting yourself on the line. Okay. All right. So again, let's read on to conclude the chapter. It says, help thy neighbor according to thy power. It's not telling you to don't help, but help with stuff that you can control, you can afford to lose. Don't go and co-sign to somebody on something, on things that you cannot afford to lose. Right? It says, help thy neighbor according to thine power, according to what you are able to do. And beware that thou thyself fall not into the same. So don't try to impress people by giving more than you can afford. Okay? Help thy neighbor according to thy power, according to what you can. And be aware that thou thyself shall not fall into the same. That's the Most High. The Most High is about equity and balance. The Most High is about equity and balance. And don't try to impress people just to show, man, oh man, this is a good brother. Oh man, this is a good sister. Next thing you know, what happened? Man, I pay his rent for him, and You know, now I cannot even pay my own. That's not good judgment. Not young.
I was gonna say, like Fox News says, right? Say they're fair and balanced.
Supposedly.
Oh, I gotta link up. This is Luke. Luke chapter 3. Luke chapter 3. Yeah, here we go. Sorry. Chapter 3 and verse 10. It reads, and the people asked John the Baptist, saying, what shall we do then? Verse 11, he answered unto them, he that hath 2 coats, let him impart to him that hath none. And he that meet, let him do likewise. So it's kind of implied in there. You have to have 2 coats to at least get one of them.
Right?
If you only have 1 coat, you can't give your 1 coat.
Right.
Because you'll be just like your neighbor.
Right. All right. So if you look at the chat, this is how I roll. I ignore ignorance when it comes to the chat sometimes, especially on the Sabbath. And somebody try to get my attention. Now the comment is on my hairline. So the comment, but still, I will not give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna keep rolling, keeping the Sabbath day holy. Personal attack to get your attention. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. All right, so let's move on. Yeah, always distracting the Sabbath service. Yeah.
Is that bro is thinking?
Huh?
One of us, bro is thinking.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. And when all else fail, it's personal attack.
It's a culture troll. Young
Right.
people.
Right. All right, so let's move on. As the wisdom comes out, we getting the wisdom. Huh? Hey, it doesn't matter. Can't keep it there. Just to show him that, ain't nothing gonna happen. Let's keep it there. Just to show him we understand. We understand. We understand your pain. We feel your pain. I hope you're not a brother or a sister.
Judgment be upon you.
Right.
What the prophet's got to say? Be quiet, keep it quick. So follow you home.
All right, so let's go. Continue on. Now, we will be shown what is really important. In verse 21, it says, the chief things for life is water and bread and clothing and house to cover shame. So this is what we talked about earlier. As we getting to a close, you see what we stated from the beginning, right? We're going to get to the last end of it, okay? Again, it's about societal, right? Social relationship, okay? Specifically, money, lending, charity, family, attitude towards wealth and treasure. And lastly, you're going to find out about having a home. Right? So let's finish up in verse 20, chapter 29. So the chief things for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame. Better is the life of a poor man in a mean's cottage than delicate fare in another man's house. Okay? Go ahead.
I want to read this again to go with Ecclesiastes 29 and 21. You can just link Ecclesiasticus 39 and 26.
Uh-huh.
Another list of essential things, like essential ingredients to make a dish.
Mm-hmm. And what was the one in Luke that you pulled?
Oh, Luke chapter 3, verses 10 and 11.
Okay.
That was for verse 20.
Okay.
We have Ecclesiastes 39 and 26.
Ecclesiasticus
39 and verse 26.
Okay.
And it says, the principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, blood of the grape, and oil, and clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that's interesting here, when we look at our law and how our law is timeless, these are the essential things that we all need for our lives. But even when you apply it to the priests,
Mm-hmm.
these are the key elements that they use too, right? So
Right.
everything that we had as far as the wilderness,
Mm-hmm.
everything was there, everything was complete. So we get confused about now. We say, okay, we're in the modern times. What do we really essentially need? You can always go back to the scriptures, go back to the law. And it's always there as far as what's an essential versus what is just extra. Or what they call superfluous, more than necessary. So the essentials are what's key to find out. It's funny with the AI wrapping up too. You see, even they're wise people, they're wise men. They're going back to those same things. Really essential things we need to know. Essentials are what matter. So they're learning that lesson, put it another way.
Right. Good. So in verse 22, let's get the understanding, proper understanding. It says, better is the life of a poor man in a mean's cottage. And this is not talking about literally poor. This is talking about having a modest lifestyle. Okay. It's better to have something that is modest, a small house that you can call your own, that you can go in to abide in somebody's house, right? To abide in another man's house, right? To live nicely in another man's house. So it's better to live modestly in something that is called your own, right? Than try to lavish inside somebody else's place. Okay. So it's better to live that way. That means you have your privacy. You know, we feel freer, right? But again, when you in somebody's place, it's somebody's place. Okay. All right. And continue on, it says, be it little or much, hold thee contented that thou hear not the reproach of thy house. Okay. So link Proverbs 17 and 1. Proverbs 17 and 1. Go ahead. Could be that by Kushan.
Proverbs 17:1. Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife.
Right. So when you're in your home, right, you can observe the Most High's law. You have a saying in what's coming to your house. You can buy stuff and store it in your house. But you may be living in a lavish house, but there's all kinds of wickedness there. The fridge is full of pork, meat, all kinds of abominable food, right? And that's going to vex your spirit there, but you have no say because it's not your house. But when you live in a place by yourself or something that is for your own, it could be small, modest, but yet you control what's coming in and out. You make your own decision. Okay? You have a say. But when you in somebody else's abode, shut up. Just shut up. Or get the hell out. Right? So that's the attitude without saying. Okay, that's the vibe you will get. If you don't like it, just leave. Right? But if you're in your home, nobody can put you out. Okay? Nobody can put you out. Right? Read on.
Well, I just want to say something here. It says sacrificial meals or feasting.
Right. Sacrificial meals and feasting. It goes into
Partying.
They cook whatever they want.
Partying, right?
Right. They cook whatever they want. Right. Strife, all kinds of rallying going on. Right. For example, right, they having a party and you there, you're gonna go to sleep. You can't go to sleep. Because hey, if you're not in the party, they're gonna disturb you because you're in that vicinity. All kinds of stuff going on. It might be all kinds of sexual, the childishness going on. You have no say.
And they also probably saying that you live in my house, man, you live in my house, steadily talking about you.
Exactly.
Make you feel less than a man.
Exactly. So that's why it says better to be modest and have something small that you can call your own than to abide in somebody's house. Give me 1 second.
Right. So the full sacrifice, that's simple. If you guys didn't get that already, it just symbolizes wealth means. It's like what Samuel told Saul. Remember, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken the fat of rams. So it's like you can have all types of stuff, but then strife. More money, more problem. Like Biggie said. But now, like you said, Khan, give a little bit, but righteousness with that little bit, that's better off.
Right.
Try more so.
The scripture about obeying better than sacrifice is 1 Samuel chapter 15.
1 Samuel
Chapter 15. Verse 22. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22 reads, and Samuel said, have Yahweh as great delight in burnt offering, the sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. So these things are good, but when combined with the wrong thing, they become bad.
Fine. In verse 24. For it is miserable life to go from house to house, for where thou art a stranger, thou darest not open thy mouth. This is everything that we would brought up. You cannot even open your mouth when you're in somebody else's house because you're a guest in their house. So mind your business. Okay? Mind your business.
24.
Okay. Verse 25. Thou shalt entertain and feast and have no thanks. Moreover, thou shalt hear bitter words. For example, you try to do a little extra, right, to please the people in the house. Okay? You do what, no matter what you do, when you live in somebody's house, you cannot win. You will try to, even if you try to go above and beyond to please the people in that house, they will still turn around and talk behind your back. Okay? They will still turn around and talk behind your back. Okay?
That's what niggas do.
Right. Right, because they're not in their right mind. Exactly. That's the
Definition.
That's the definition.
Ignorant person.
Right. So no matter what good you do, it's not going to amount to anything. They're still going to talk behind your back. When you abide in other people's house. Verse 26. Come thou stranger, and furnish a table, and feed me of thou hast ready. So you pretty much are slaves working, and you are being ordered around. Okay. Verse 27. Give place, thou stranger, to an honorable man. My brother cometh to be large, and I have need of mine house. At any time, they can kick you out. Because I have a family member coming over. I don't know where you're going to stay, but I'm going to need the spot. You can come back, but, whenever, they decide to leave, you can come back. 28. These things are grievous to a man of understanding. The upbraiding of house room and reproaching of the lender, and reproaching of the lender. So again, be mindful when you fall into a state, to a lower state, and if you are to find yourself in this situation, try to quickly work yourself out of it. Okay, because people do come to misfortune where you need a place, but understand, put that into perspective, and plan ahead, right, to get yourself, and pray to the Most High that you get yourself out of that dungeon. Okay. Now, continue on. We're gonna move to chapter 30. Okay. Chapter 30. What is chapter 30 is about? All right, we're going to learn about proper upbringing, health, and the pursuit of true happiness. So chapter 30 stands, right, it's gonna, now we are moving from external finances into internal life. That's why I said attitude towards life itself. Okay, so that's pretty much chapter 30. Okay, so this is a well-rounded book that we have, the Bible, that teaches us every aspect of how an Israelite is supposed to live. So now we're going to learn in chapter 30 the discipline, how to discipline our children, the value of having good health, how to properly enjoy life, okay, and pursuit of wisdom and fear of the Most High. So let's unpack chapter 30. And it says, he that loveth his son causeth him often to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end. Properly bring in your child. Okay? Why you have to spare not the rod? This implies strict discipline. Okay, strict discipline. Verse 2. The chastiser, he chastiseth his son, shall have, he chastiseth his son, shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance. Okay. So let's link that with Proverbs 13 and 24. Go by, you could read that, Babu Kushak. Proverbs 13 and 24, link with verse 1 and 2. Proverbs 13, 24. We're going to link that with Ecclesiasticus chapter 30, verse 1 to 2.
He that spares his bride hateth his son, but he that loveth him chastises him bedtime.
Right. So if you love your child, you will discipline them. Discipline. You will teach them the right way. And it's not something that you have pleasure in doing all the time, but it will pay off in the end. For example, Israel is being disciplined right now in captivity, going to hardship. Not because the Most High hate us, but because the Most High loved us. That's why we are being chastised in the land of North America, or all throughout the four corners of the earth. The children of Israel, the true biblical Jews, are being chastised because the Most High loved us. That's the example that the Most High is teaching us, right, to different verses, right, to emphasize discipline. So you don't like when your child are crying when you chastise them, but it has to be done so that they can properly learn the lessons of life. Verse 3. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy. Now, when you chastise your son, daughter, you grieveth the enemy. Example, when you chastise your son in the Western world, especially in America, you have agencies that come after you to lock you up for chastising your children, because you grieve with the enemy. You teach them discipline because they want your child to grow up undisciplined so they can become a product of the system, right? The system will make use of them, will get them locked up and make money off of them in jails, right? And use them, right? In that sort. But if you teach them discipline, then the system cannot take advantage of them and they become a problem. They might challenge the system, become somebody who sometimes become an advocate for the needy, advocate for the less fortunate, advocate for the one that are unjustly treated, right? So that's why the system, you grieve the system when you discipline your child, because you bring in a next generation that can be a thorn in the system side, right? I'm talking about this empire in the way they operate. Okay. Verse 4. Verse 4. And it says, verse 4, though his father died, yet he is as though he were not dead, for he have left one behind him that is like himself. So like father, like son. Whatever you learn, the wisdom and understanding of life that you learn, you transfer that wisdom into your children. Okay? Into your children. And now they're gonna continue on the good lesson or the good teaching and pass it on to a generation. And that's how you have a generation of smart, understanding people. Okay? Or smart, understanding people. That's why you grieve the enemy, because ignorance is a product or exploited by Esau and the other nations. When you are ignorant, you are subject to exploitation. Okay. Continue on in verse 5. It says, while he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him, and when he died, he was not sorrowful because he did his job. When he died, he left a replacement. When he go back to the Most High, he left a replacement to continue on tradition, the good tradition. Okay? So you have no regrets because you know you're still alive, because your wisdom and understanding is not dead, but passed down to your offspring. Okay? Verse 6. He left behind him an avenger against his enemies. So whatever he did not get a chance to do, the task will continue to his offspring, to his son. So which means you are still again alive, being a thorn on your enemy side. Okay? Verse 7. He that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds, and his bowels will be troubled at every cry. So now, if you don't teach your children the right way and you let them be, what's going to happen? We give that example of a mirror at Kent, where we are the mirror of the next generation. The next generation look upon the elders and see themselves in them. So meaning, if they are misbehaving and we don't discipline them, they will think it's okay because they're looking at the mirror who we are, and they will see that it's acceptable. But if we chastise them and show them that it's not acceptable, that's what's being reflected in that mirror who we are today in the eyes of the children that are growing up today. They did not grow up, or they did not come up having a mirror. We are their mirror. They did not come out of their mother's womb with a mirror to look at themselves. They have us as their mirror to look upon. Okay? So some of us may say, oh, I'm not a role model. That's a bad way of looking at it, because you are a role model. You are the mirror that the children or the next generation is looking in, right, to see how they look in that mirror. So if the mirror is broken, if the mirror is not well clean, then you're going to have a generation that is growing up broken as well. But if the mirror get the message, right, if the children get the message from the mirror in a good message, then they will have a better way and continue on our tradition. So this is the pitfall that the Most High did not want us to fall in. That's why he gave us laws, statutes, and commandments to pass down from generation to generation. Okay? Continue on verse 8. It says, A horse not broken becometh headstrong, and a child left to himself will be willful. So the same way you train a horse to be in good discipline, good behavior, it's the same way when you don't teach the children the right way, then they're gonna go out based on what they feel is right, rather than what is right that you have taught them. Okay. Verse 9. Cock thy child, and he shall make thee afraid. Play with him, and he will bring thee to happiness. So if you take your child and don't teach them and play with them, right? And you put them in a position like on a pedestal, like silver spoon in their mouth, like they can't do no wrong. Now you just created a monster. Right? You have to teach them the right precept, right understanding how they should go, and be strict when you need to be strict, and don't lax. Don't lax. Again, we are the mirror. It says, left not with him, lest thou have sorrow with him, and lest thou gnash thy teeth in the end. We are friends when you keep my commandments as a child, or when you keep my saying, my wise saying, and you follow instruction. But we are not friends when you are not keeping the commandments. The same thing that the Most High have taught us. You're gonna find out the Most High is a good friend. He's a savior. He's a father. And we're gonna find out he also is very, very strict when we don't keep his commandments. So you'll never feel alone when you have the Most High. He will always be there as long as we keep his commandments. But if we don't keep his commandments, we're going to find out he is the strictest being ever in our lives. So he will turn his back away from us to teach us discipline. And based on Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter, we know how the story goes. Okay? Continue on verse 11. Give him no liberty in his youth, and wink not at his folly. So give him no liberty, give him no freedom to slack. And when he when he makes some blunder, don't laugh at it and say, it's okay. Look at him. Look at that, my baby. Oh, man. You're so silly. No, correct him right away. Because by acting that way, you show him that misbehavior is good. Again, reflecting the mirror. So he's going to reflect in the mirror who we are and accept it as, oh, man, the mirror just showed me that I just did is good. Okay, great. So I'm going to continue on. Next time, they're going to do the same exact thing, and you're going to be ashamed right in front of your friends, family, or in front of your enemies. Because that reflection that we are says that behavior was good by our action. Okay? I'm speaking figurative, but not literal, so you can understand. We are a mirror. Again, our reaction is a reflection of what we think is acceptable, without saying that behavior will be copied by your child. Before you know it, whenever they do something and you try to correct them later on, they're going to say, man, I did it last time, you didn't say anything. You see? Because that reflection says, what I did before was okay. But when you come to your senses and try to correct them, they will remind you, how come you didn't correct me? That's when the teaching moment comes in, that you listen, now I realize this, that, and the third. This is how I should have behaved. I let you slack, but it was not a good part. That was not a good act on my part. Okay? So you nip it in the bud. Write that in there. And go moving forward, you start to correct everything that they have done. Okay? So that they can get good upbringing. Let's continue on in verse 12. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child, lest he walk stubborn and be disobedient unto thee, and so bring sorrow to thine heart. In your mind, you're going to say, man, look at this that I bring up. You bring up a little demon, and that's going to be a reflection on you for not taking the proper action, because they're going to say, man, is so-and-so children or so-and-so child? Oh, man, I can't believe so-and-so turned out that way. He's not like that. What happened? Because the proper instruction was not given. Okay? So got to be mindful of that. All these things are in the scriptures for our good. And again, contrary to popular belief, this is instruction for the children of Israel on how to live, how to bring up child, and bringing back the next generation stronger than we left it. So we have responsibility for the present and the future of the next generation. All right. So we have a shared responsibility for the present and the future generation on how we teach them as the mirror of them. Okay. We are the mirror of them. Okay. So they watching our behavior. They're watching our action. They're watching what we do and looking at us. Right? And even if they don't say anything, for example, see, today, society, everyone is the mirror of the next generation. Right? Everyone, from the teachers to parents, right, to people that are taking care of them, the nannies, right? Every one of them represent that mirror to the children coming up. And if the mirror is not clear, is not clean, they will see that and it's going to reflect back on them because they're looking at us as the mirror. Continue on in verse 13. Chastise thy son and hold him to labor, lest his lewd behavior be an offense unto thee. So the importance of keep him working, keep him busy, give him extra work when he comes back from school to keep him busy, right? occupy his time so he doesn't have time to get into trouble, into mischief. Nowadays, our people, we are so busy chasing money, we don't even get involved in our people's life. But you know who's involved in their life? Their peer. They look at their peer as their mirror. They look at people in the corner as their mirror. When you are out there working, they out there lollygagging. This is the mirror that they're looking at, because we are not present in our children's lives. And we wonder why they turn out the way they turn out. Is because you weren't there. You weren't instilling them the example. You weren't being that mirror, that good mirror that they can looking into, right, to get the proper upbringing. Okay, so we are to be blamed. It's not the child. It's not the children, because we are their teachers. Again, we are their mirror. We the one that they reflect upon. So looking at how the world is turning out today, if we are the way we are, don't expect the next generation to be better off. You're going to have a generation of children that's going to be worse than we are, because we're not doing our job as parents, as teachers, as educators, right, of the next generation. So don't be surprised. Continue on in verse 14. Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution. Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution. What is the constitution? Law. We always refer to the Bible as our constitution. When we strong in the law, when we understand our constitution as a people, we cannot be taken advantage of. But if you don't know, you live in a country, you don't have a clue of what it says in the constitution of that country, you will be taken advantage of left and right. Your right will be violated. And this is where we are. Our rights are being violated right before our eyes, because we forsake the commandments, we forsake the constitution that the Most High have given us as a people. Continue on. Verse 15. Now we transition into good health. All right. So we just finished about how to bring the next generation, how to teach the kids. Think about it. I was a product of my environment with my parents. Looking at it, I am reflecting back what I was taught as a child. Why am I not as crazy as everybody else? Because of my upbringing. That's what I reflect. I reflected back on what I was taught as a child. And so are you. Right? So you are a product of your parents, a product of your teachers, a product of the people that take care of you when you were little. They were your mirror. They were my mirror. So reflect back on what I see in that mirror. I become the person that I am today. Of course, by the hand of the Most High. They did the best they could, even in their ignorance. Now I can reflect back and see their ignorance, and I can correct my way by reading the true constitution that the Most High given us. Right? In their ignorance, they taught me, but I can see through now. But if they did not give me at least a start, who knows where I would be. Right? And we see a lot of our people end up in jail, locked up. Why? Because their parents weren't there. Even if the parents were there, they were not present to teach them the right thing. Right? Given that we are lost, but again, by the Most High's mercy, we were able to see the light. But now that those of us who know the light, we know better, we ought to offer a better understanding, a better teaching. And how we were talking about famine last night. Famine It's happening on a high level because the teachers, the prophet, are not teaching the good word of the Most High. And when the Bible talking about a famine, this implies the famine. Okay? Because we look for the Most High in all the wrong places. That's why we are famished as a people. We're not getting the proper nutrient like Jeremiah did. He pretty much eat the word as it was food. Right? So with all that being said, we're going to transition to good health. All right, health in the sovereignty of the Most High. That's pretty much what we transition to for the rest of the chapter. Let's move on. 15. Health and good estate of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth. Okay. The supreme blessing upon this earth is health. That's the highest form of blessing that one can have. Being able to move about without, hindrance to your physical body. It is superior blessing. Okay. So reading on, it says, there is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the mind or of the heart. Okay. So you see the contrast, the joy of a healthy with bitterness of sickness, right? And we're gonna see how it's gonna go down and talk about those who involve into other stuff as far as bad practice following the heathen custom. It says no joy above the joy of the heart, of the mind. Right? If you're happy in the mind, like they say, the body would follow. Death is better than a bit bitter life or continual sickness. It's better to be at rest with the Most High than a life with continual sickness, where 1 minute you okay, the next minute you have a bit of pain that you cannot bear. Okay, that you cannot bear. Okay, let's get Proverbs 21:1 to further edify what we just said here. Go, Bar, you could read that Bible child once you have it. Proverbs 21:1.
The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will.
Right. So again, as we understand, the Most High is in control of health, and that blessing of health is from the Most High. Okay. Continue on. Verse 8, verse 17. Proverbs 21:1. All right. It says in verse 18. Verse 18. Delicates pour upon a mouth shut up are as masses of meat set offering unto an idol. Okay. That's what I was alluding to earlier. Right? It says again, delicate poured upon a mouth shut up are as masses of meat set upon grave. So kind of like people who offer food to idols, right? It makes no sense. You take meat and give it to idols, who's gonna eat it? The idol's not gonna eat it. It's pretty much nonsense. But again, that's what people do. Okay? That's what people do. Even though it makes no sense, that's not gonna stop people from doing it. Because in their mind, it makes sense. Because, for example, somebody might have a headache, right? Instead of calling on the Most High to subdue or alleviate that headache, they went and do sacrificing to an idol, right? Instead of calling on the Most High. That's pretty much what verse 18 is alluding to. Those who sacrifice to idol to get well, knowing that good health is a product or blessing in the hand of the Most High. Right? Giving sacrificing to idol will not make you well. Right? Even though they offer sacrificing to idols, they still remain in bitterness. Right? In verse 18, it says, it messes of the meat set up a grave. Verse 19. What good doeth the offering unto an idol? For neither can it eat nor smell, nor is he that is persecuted of the Lord. So if it's the Most High that you are being chastised or put into a bodily constraint with sickness, offering to idols will not fix the situation, because you are being tormented by the Most High. So what is that going to do? It's not going to help, right? So this is folly. Verse 20. He seeth with his eyes and groaneth as an Enoch that embraceth a virgin and sigheth. It's like, what can you do? You like an Enoch and you see a virgin, you hug them, but you powerless. You can't act. Right? You can't perform.
Window dressing.
Right? You can perform like,
Looks nice.
Yeah.
She looks lovely. Just as far as it goes.
Yep. But you cannot please. You cannot do anything. That's all you can do. Just a mere hug.
I'll stop with you, buddy.
Right? So when somebody try to substitute sacrifice to idol and let go of righteousness, right? It's folly. It's not going to help. It's not going to make a difference. You're still going to be in agony and pain and not be well. Okay. Continue on. Now, for the finished part, we're going to go into those who pursue joy in the fear of death. That's pretty much what the very last verses, 21 to 25, is going to focus on. Give not over thy mind to heaviness, and afflict not thyself in thine own counsel. Okay. Kind of like the, you know, when Paul was going around and having debate with the different philosophies, the Stoic has that philosophy. Okay. Okay. So the Stoic wisdom, they remember mortality because it helps avoid anxiety. Okay. So it says, I read it again, give not over thy mind to heaviness, and afflict not thyself in thine own counsel. Okay, so they party and they don't even, they try to avoid a pain by not minding, you know, their way of life, how they live it. They just focus on having fun. Okay. Verse 22, it says, the gladness of the mind or of the heart is the life of men, and the joyfulness of a man prolongeth his day. So as a man thinketh in his mind, so is he. Right? So let's get Proverbs 14 and verse 30. Yahukanan, you could read that, Babu Kushan. Proverbs 14 and verse 30. Proverbs 14 and verse 30.
Proverbs 14, verse 30. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones.
Right. So a sound mind, you could say, is the engine that keeps the body going strong. Okay. And to put it a step further, the well of that engine derives from the Mosai, from the Mosai architectural landscape. Okay. The engine is the life that keeps the body going. If a sound mind, if the engine is good, the mind and the body follows. And the proprietary of both the engine and the body is the Most High. That's the source. And Yahukanan.
Ecclesiasticus 38, verse 18. For of heaviness cometh death, and the heaviness of the heart breaketh strength.
The heaviness of the heart breaketh strength. Strong-minded, that's why I said strong-minded individual. They hard to kill. You become hard to kill. When you are strong-minded, especially when you have strength of scripture, instruction, given to us by the Most High to properly function, you are unstoppable. Okay? You are stronger than death and sin. Imagine that. You are stronger than both death and sin, who are the deterrent, sin first and foremost, the deterrent of a sound mind, sound doctrine. But if you're stronger than both sin and death, meaning you have the mind of the Most High, the engine is in good standing. So the body will follow. The body will follow. Once the mind is good, because the mind is connected to the source by applying the manual that the Most High gave us to function, because everything comes with a manual. Even in the world, it's hardly you're going to find an equipment or coming from a manufacturer that don't have a manual. So you think us as the children of the Most High, we would be without a manual? Of course not. When the Most High created us, how we supposed to function was all included in that engine, which is the mind. It was included. There wasn't any need for a printed manual separately from us. But since we are not in our right mind, the manual needed to be written for us to read it and follow the instruction of life. There comes Moses with the covenant in the book of the covenant, giving us the law once again so that we can have it in written form to read and apply. But prior to that, we came with the manual included. But now the manual is detached from us. We got to read it in the book, printed through machines. Okay? And there's going to come a time when we would not need a written manual, but we will be, or we will include with the manual. There will be no detachment. So we will be that walking manual, including the machine, right? The body that clothe the spirit. Okay? Because we are nothing but spirit in a spiritual suit walking around the earth called the body. That's what we are. But because now the mind is not acting properly, that suit cannot get the proper instruction to behave. Okay? But once the mind is sound, the suit will get the proper instruction to follow. That's why we get sick and all kinds of diseases, because we are not walking according to the proper instruction for the body to exist on this planet Earth. Understand that. Okay? We are spirits in a body. Just like when you go in outer space, you need a special suit to function in outer space. Down here on Earth, we have a special suit called the skin, with organs, with all kinds of interconnected arteries, right? Livers, brain, fingers, gallbladder, eyes, nose, mouth, hair, all constitutes the suit that we need to clothe the spirit. So we are not the suit. We are the spirit clothed in that suit called the body. So that body is malfunctioned because of lack of comprehension of the law, statutes, commandments to exist forever on this planet. But it will not be forever. The children of Israel, by the promise made by the Most High, we will get back on track. Thus saith the Most High, thus saith the scriptures. Whether you like it or not. I know this is some heavy saying, but the Spirit compels that it comes out, and it come out. Let's finish up. Verse 22. 23. Love thine own soul, and comfort thine heart. And your soul is made up of your mind, your will, your emotion, constitute your soul. So love thine own soul, and comfort thine mind, comfort thine heart. That's where your spirit, right? Remove sorrow far from thee, for sorrow hath killed many, and there is no profit therein. Sorrow is a product of sin inflicted upon us, right, due to lack of understanding of righteousness. So the minute that you feel like you're going down, you having anxiety, you're in sorrow of mind, check yourself with the scriptures. Read the scriptures and encourage and strength. Because in the scriptures, you have hope. In the manual, you can get the instruction on how to correct that. Okay? Us as the Most High's creatures, the children of Israel, including all the other nations, but again, the Most High is dealing with his people because he gave them statutes and laws and testimonies and instruction. Through the children of Israel, the other people might learn a thing or two. We're supposed to be the teachers of every nation on earth because we are the people that the Most High is dealing with per Psalm 147, 19 and 20. Okay? So therefore, we have that manual today. Like I said, the phone comes with a manual, laptop comes with a manual, anything you can imagine that a manufacturer produce comes with a manual, including us. We have a manual. Following the manual, you get the proper function. Ignore the manual, we will malfunction, and we will not know how to come out of it until we read the manual and come back in track. Otherwise, we can try to use another manual, right? That's not in line with who we are. We may get a little result here and there. Still, we will not get it correct because we are not using the manufacturer manual that the Most High gave us, which is our book, our law, statutes, and commandments. Finishing up. Verse 24. Envy and wrath shorten the life, and carefulness bringeth age before the time. Okay? Age before the time. One last scripture link up for a good mind. Proverbs 17 and 22. Gobar, Babu Kushar, you can read that for us. Proverbs 17 and 22.
A merry heart doeth good like a medicine,
Uh-huh.
but a broken spirit drieth the bones.
Right. So a merry heart is medicine to the body. So if we are not in good spirit, we are not in good mind, we will get sick. That's pretty much the translation. So if your mind is sound, your mind is pure, your mind is connected to the source of life, the Most High, through the instruction in the scriptures and application, you have medicine. Medicine that matters most. Because a sound mind going to tell you what to eat, the dietary law. It's going to connect to the good protein, good supplement, good natural vitamin, good leaves, herbs. A good mind will do that. A good mind will direct you into good stuff that you should eat according to the dietary law. That's what a good mind does. In turn, the body will benefit and be sound. But a crooked mind will tell you pork is a white man's, another white man's, what is it? White meat. Not a white meat. A good mind will tell you, you know what? I better read this because it might contain something that can harm my body. A good mind will do that. A crooked mind will say, what the hell it is, man? We live and die. That's a crooked mind. We live and die, man. What the hell, you know, I just gonna eat it. The Most High will bless me. That's a crooked mind. A good mind will teach us prevention. And if you happen to put something in your body in ignorance, then the Most High will intervene because of your ignorance. Or if it's not in your power to afford something, the Most High will protect you in that case. Right? But being in a mind where you'd say it's whatever, that's not a sound mind. Okay? Let's see the conclusion in verse 24 and 25. Usually it's going to summarize what we just read in the chapter. To conclude, it says, a cheerful and good mind will have a care of his meat and diet. See, I didn't even read the last end. It pretty much summarized, captured everything that I just said. A cheerful and good mind will have a care of his meat and diet. So a good mind will tell you, will direct you into the dietary law. That's what a good mind will do. Okay? And the mercy come from the Most High. Okay? So with that being said, we have unpacked Ecclesiasticus chapter 29 and 30. And again, we learn about money, lending, charity, surety, have your own home, or have a place of abide that you can go as little or as modest it may be on your own. Don't abide in other people's house to house, from room to room. Okay? Also, discipline. We learn about discipline, how to discipline our child. We learn about health. We learn about true joy. And there comes the end of the chapters that we read. So now for next reading, Baba Koshai, if anyone has that sheet. Binder.
Prayer.
The next reading will be 2 Chronicle chapter 17 and verse 18, where we're going to continue to learn about the history of Israel in the kings of Israel, right? Compilation of history. All right. And also, we have the Passover coming up. Be ready. Another law that the Most High said that we should learn. We should attend. It is not Easter, but it is the Passover. So we all here familiar with the Passover. So it's coming up Wednesday at sundown. Okay. And if you like what you just heard, share it. And if you have more questions and you want to unpack some verses, you have questions about verses and about who you are as a people, how do you learn about your constitution, which is the scriptures, the law, statutes, commandments that govern the children of Israel. We have class time Tuesdays and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. And if you want to make donation to further the truth so that our people can get it and not be in famine of the word of the Most High, because the true teaching of the word of the Most High is not everywhere. It's only with the children of Israel who are waking up. They can decipher, according to the Spirit, the contract, the covenant, so that you can understand how to keep it. You can attend in person at 3826B if you happen to live in the Philadelphia area. Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, PA, 19140. Okay. And if you want to attend virtually, where we can still see you, even though you may not be here physically, but you will be able to see the individual that we communicate with. Once you can show your visage, and after that, you can, if you're not able, you can put yourself a caricature, or you can put your image, or you can whatever you feel like it. But at first, you need to show your presence so we know who we are in communication with and relation with. You can go to profitabletalks.com, and you need to have a Zoom account, right? This is the modern world. All right, all thanks to technology. Again, one might say, this is Esau's technology. No, everything is of the Most High, including technology, except one might choose to use it for good, and one might choose to use it for bad. It is a tool. Okay. ProfitableTalks.com. Or if you don't have a smartphone, you prefer to dial in, you can dial 667-770-1085, and you put in the conference code which is 521-455. Okay. So if you have friends or family who would delight in the Most High and they have wrong guidance, they're not getting the proper nourishment spiritually, and you sense that the Most High have calling them to wake up, direct them to one of these avenues depending on how they want it. Okay? And if you are to donate to the cause to keep the light going, you can donate to paypal.me/HYK12, or you can send it via Zelle 646-620-7378. So with that being said, stay tuned for the closing prayer. Once again, my name was Kahan Pukwad. It with great humility and honor that I was of service to the Most High first and foremost, right? Via the word Yahushua, and of service to the congregation. Stay tuned for the closing prayer. All right. All right. Bashem Yahushai, Asherana to Nawapaya Gaban Dwaraman, La Yaha Bashem Yahushai, Atyashah. English translation: Bless our Yahweh in the name of Yahushai that gives to us the fruit of the vine, to Yahweh in the name of Yahushai with his hand. Upon you, you wash them, stand faithful. Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Abushai, Shema, Banawa, Aitha, Yamyan, Aitha, Salat, Micah Allah, Wala Hai, Bataz Wudakim, Shema Ayah, Barak, Rabah, Magan, Wakaziyat, Bunya, Yasha Allah, Wasalat, Lanawa, Rabim, Takama, Rabim, the Ayah, Rabim, Bayana, Rabim, Sabalanwa, Rabim, One, Rabim, Aqua, Rabim, Ahabim, Rabim, Agana, Wakhanai, Wasalat, Kau, Katayamnawa,
Lahakim,
Lahakim,
Wayasha'ala,
Yasha'ala,
Tamyad,
Tamyad,
Waiwalam,
Waiwalam,
Ba'asham,
Ba'asham,
Yahushai,
Yahushai,
Tawada,
Tawada,
Aman.
Aman.
English translation. Bless Yahweh in the name of Yahushai. Please listen to us now. Right now, send Michael and the righteous powers and angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection. And forgive us all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahushua, thank you. So be it. 4 corners prayer. Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'asham,
Ba'asham,
Yahushua,
Yahushai,
Rock now,
Rock now,
Wayasha'ala,
Yasha'ala,
Bafis upon you.
Ba'asham,
Shema, Yashirala, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Yahweh, all right. That being said, enjoy the rest of the Sabbath. All right, and have a blessed week, and look forward to the Passover coming up. Shalom, Israel. Stay blessed.